India's aviation sector is back in the news. Another airline has hit turbulence. You must have seen headlines talk about Go First. It's a budget carrier. Earlier it was known as Go Air. This airline has filed for bankruptcy, the second such case in 4 years, the second Indian airline to declare bankruptcy in 4 years. The first one was Jet Airways. It filed for bankruptcy in 2019, and Jet was a leading Indian airline. Now Go First is in trouble. In fact, the entire aviation sector is witnessing a churn. Last year, the government gave up the national carrier Air India. It was taken over by the Tata Group. Tata already owned an airline called Vistara. It decided to merge in Air India with Vistara. And now we have Go First going bankrupt. What does it mean for India's aviation sector? We'll discuss tonight, starting with the Go First story. The airline has stopped all flights. Reports say there is a severe shortage of funds. The books look bad. Reports also say that Go First owes more than $800 million to its creditors. Payments worth $146 million are pending. These are payments to vendors. And aircraft lessors are owed a little over $300 million. Only 15% of the airline's fleet is operational. What happened to the rest? Go First is blaming its engine supplier. The name of the company is Pratt & Whitney. Go First says Pratt & Whitney supplied faulty engines, so they could not operate the planes, and this has led to direct losses. In fact, Go First has shared data to make its case. Here's what it says. In December 2019, Go First grounded just 7% of its fleet. 3 years later, this number surged to 50%, 50% of the planes were not operational. And how much did the airline lose because of this? More than $1 billion. These are revenue losses and additional expenses. India's aviation minister has weighed in on the case. Jyotiraditya Scindia said, and I'm quoting, critical supply chain issues dealt a blow to Go First. And the government is assisting the airline. It has spoken to various stakeholders. The engine maker has responded too. That's Pratt & Whitney. They said, this is now a matter of litigation. They've given a guarded statement. I'll quote from what they've said. Pratt & Whitney is committed to the success of our airline customers, and we continue to prioritize delivery schedules for all customers, which does not really say very much. Apparently, this matter is now before a US court. Go First has moved an emergency petition. We'll see how the case develops in the days ahead and what bearing it has on the Indian aviation sector. It's going through tough times as it is. Airlines are struggling to break even. I have some estimates with me. In the last 3 financial years, airlines in India have lost around $10 billion. From 2021 to 2022, they reported a net loss of $1.4 billion. You could blame some of the losses on the pandemic, but this year too, the situation is not expected to improve. Experts are projecting a loss for the current financial year. They're projecting a loss of $1.6 to $1.8 billion. Plus, there's a crisis of jobs. Thousands of pilots remain grounded. According to regulators, there's an oversupply of pilots. I have a quote from Arun Kumar, the chief of the Directorate General of Civil Aviation. This is India's aviation regulator. Arun Kumar was on the position till February, and he gave a statement earlier this year. Listen to what he said. There are nearly 9,000 pilots currently employed with Indian carriers. Then a couple of thousands have gone to foreign airlines such as Qatar. If you add all these numbers, you'll have 13,000 pilots in total. But there is still nearly 5,000 to 6,000 pilots who are out there in the market looking for a job. So airlines are making losses, and the supply of manpower is way higher than demand. There aren't enough jobs. These are classic signs of distress. And this is not limited to India. The global story looks similar to this. Let me show you data from December 2022. This was released by the IATA, the International Air Transport Association. It's an international aviation body. It made projections about global airlines and their finances. It said some airlines will see recovery, like the North American carriers. They were expected to earn a profit of more than $9 billion in 2022. And $11.4 billion in 2023. But European airlines are expected to see a loss of more than $3 billion in 2022. These are numbers from December, so we'll have the final figures now. But this was a projection. This year, European airlines are projected to make a profit of over $600 million. All other major sectors are likely to remain in losses. Asian Pacific carriers A loss of $10 billion in 2022. West Asian Airlines, a loss of $1.1 billion. Latin America, $2 billion. Africa, $638 million in losses. So the recovery is patchy and there are losses across the board. Airlines in India are going through the same. Go first is proof.